welcome. I think let's start by introducing ourselves and then we can have Adama introduce himself and then get started.
Sounds good.
I'll go first. Hi, welcome. Okay, so I'm Fabi. I am a multifaceted woman who lives in Nashville, Tennessee. I met Marlayna a few weeks ago and we discovered that we are part of the same soul tribe, and I am also a spiritual guide. I am a healer, and we have just hit it off, had so many amazing discoveries over the last few weeks. And one of the things that I'm so excited about is basically doing these Q&As, hopefully weekly, depending on our schedules, where we ask Adama, which is the Ascended Master who Marlayna has been channeling for the last few months, and she'll share with you a bit more about that. And yeah, please add any questions you have. I will ask them as they come through. And yeah, I'm excited. So Marlayna, maybe introduce yourself, how we got here, and then Adama can take over.
Yes, sounds good. So I'm Marlayna. I have been on my spiritual journey since about 2016, but things have really been exploding for me since around the first of this year. I went through like a month-long phase of just feeling absolutely drained and horrible in December, and then January came around and things just absolutely exploded for me. I came online with all kinds of clairaudience, clairvoyance, and it's like it just keeps coming, it keeps getting bigger. So it's been a crazy journey this past like 6 months. It feels like it's been 2 days and 5 years in the same breath. But I've come online as a divine channel for Ascended Master Adama, as Fabi was saying, and also recently for Sophia as well. So some of these messages may not be exclusively from Adama, some of them may be from Sophia as well. So just keep that in mind, that if you want to ask us a question from one specific one, you can definitely do that as well. But I'm really excited to be doing these Q&A sessions, just because I know that Adama loves to talk and I love channeling, so I'm sure it will be a great time for everybody involved, and hopefully educational too.
Yay! All right,
Yeah.
let's welcome Adama.
All right. Also, these are my meditation crystals. If you guys see me holding them, just ignore them. Greetings, everybody. My name is Adama, and indeed, you may call me Ascended Master Adama, for I am an Ascended Master. However, this formality is not required, and you may just call me Adama if you wish. As I have said in previous channelings that I have done through this channel, I am a being from the 6th density and the 5th dimension. And so in that, I am basically the self-actualized version of the human beings that you all are. And so in this way, I believe myself to be a very beneficial and opportunistic teacher for you all in this period of time. And so that is the purpose of my coming online with Marlayna as a channel at this time. For indeed, the time of Earth's ascension has arrived, and so we are trying our best to make the most of this opportunity and allow all beings on Earth at this moment to fully ascend to the 5th dimension upon their death in this lifetime. But that being said, if you'd like to know more information about who I am and the other channelings that I have done previously, they are all in the link in Marlayna's bio. And of course, you may send a DM to either Marlayna or Fabi, and they will provide you this link as well. But without further ado, let's get to it, shall we?
All right. Okay, so I think someone had a question. Go ahead, Wayne, and I don't know how to say your name. Just put your question in the comments and I will ask that. But first, I wanted to ask Adama. So we talked about this kind of the topic for today is the spiritual nature of mental health. I know a lot of people, including myself and Marlayna, have dealt with various mental health challenges, I will say. And I think that's a big thing, especially after 2020, after the pandemic, for a lot of people here on Earth. I wanted you to maybe share a little bit about, from a spiritual perspective, how people should look at or can look at mental health.
So mental health is much like your physical health. So for example, if you stub your toe and you break your toe, your toe is going to hurt really, really bad compared to if you stub your toe and you don't break your toe.
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, if you undergo a trauma where somebody tells you something like, oh, you're ugly, that might break a part of you. It might hurt a part of you. And so if you don't treat that hurt, if you don't fully express that hurt and hold space to heal it, then it's going to come up in different ways. And so there are many different wounds that humans can undergo, and each different wound can be tied back to a mental health issue. But I would also like to note that some mental health is decided on a soul level. So that means that before your soul came into this incarnation, it decided to struggle with this mental health issue. And that could be for many different reasons, but just to throw a few of them out there right now, one of them could be that that at some point you might be drawn to help people treat and cope with their own mental illness. And so you have to go through your own healing journey in order to be able to heal these other people, as was the case with this channel personally. And you may also decide to engage in a mental health issue due to past life trauma. So if you have a past life where you constantly suppressed emotions or where you didn't hold space for yourself to feel, you may choose to incarnate in this lifetime and have a mental illness that forces you to hold space for yourself and that forces you to experience these emotions and to not suppress them, because that is a really big theme that's coming up right now for the earth and the human collective as a whole, is this unsuppression of emotions. And so that's why a lot of people are experiencing some mental illnesses, like especially the numb kind of depression, that very, very almost always stems from suppressing the emotions and not holding space for oneself.
So
Does this answer your question?
yes, thank you. That's really helpful. What would you say if someone is watching this or they're on their mental health journey and they know this is something that they need to pay attention to and do more work on? What would be the first tip you would give them to start that process?
If you can't hold space for yourself, have somebody else hold space for you. So usually I would recommend a therapist or some kind of a professional, but if you can't afford that, find a really close friend, or perhaps you could call, I know the suicide hotline has people that you can talk to. So you could talk to people on there, even if you're not in an active suicidal crisis. Of course, please don't, hog the lines for people who do need them. But if you are having a moment where you need somebody to hold space for you and you don't have the tools to hold space for yourself and you don't know how to feel these emotions and you don't know how to process these emotions and cope with them, then definitely seek out external help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, and it doesn't mean that you're not learning the proper lessons, and it doesn't mean that you're weak. In fact, some people will choose mental illness so that they have to learn how to ask for help, because indeed, Western culture is a very individualistic society, and so this is an epidemic, as you would say.
So when you say if you can't hold space for yourself, what does that mean to the person who has never encountered this? What is an example of holding space for yourself? That term, what does it mean?
So holding space, like I was kind of saying, what is basically, it's processing your emotions. It's holding space for them inside of yourself. So that means stepping out of the part of you that's in crisis mode in this emotion and stepping into self. So I guess the best way to explain this would probably be in the IFS, Internal Family Systems Therapy frame point of view, which basically states that every time you experience an emotion or you experience any kind of trauma or any kind of exciting or emotional experience, there is a part of you that feels this through a specific lens. So if there's, a part of you that was hurt and it has a father wound, then there's the part of you that has that father wound that will see this. And there's also the part of you that has a mother wound, or say for example, a friend wound, or whatever that wound may be. There's a different part for each of these, but there's also a core self. So when you're holding space for yourself, you're stepping out of all of these parts and you're stepping into self. And self is basically the part of you that holds space for all of these other parts by expressing unconditional love and positive regard for each individual part. And so unconditional love and positive regard is a big thing in Carl Jung's theories of psychology. And so unconditional love and positive regard are the two core ways to hold space for yourself. So when you step into this form of self, when you step into your true self and out of your parts, you allow yourself to express this unconditional positive regard and unconditional love to all of these parts of yourself, or whatever part of yourself is coming up at this moment. Does that make sense?
Yes, that is very helpful. So, how can people get support from higher beings, or what does that look like from the higher realms for people who feel like they have exhausted getting maybe support from experts, or they just want to increase or deepen their spiritual connections with their guides, with higher beings, with ascended masters? What available resources are there, and how can they kind of engage with those?
Okay, so we have two really big options here, or like, shall we say two like principal options. So our first option in this connecting with higher guidance and seeking help through this way, or actually let's put three out there today. So our first one is going to be transcendental meditation, and this is traditionally what people use to connect with their higher guidance. It's a little bit outdated in my opinion, because a lot of people, especially in this modern day age of go 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 all the time, have difficulty just sitting down and holding space for themselves and not moving at all. Also, people have difficulty finding time to do this because your society is so go 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 all the time. So that being said, transcendental meditation is a good option, just sitting down and asking your guides like, hey, what's going on? Can I connect with you? Can you help me with this thing? But simply just expressing the desire, whether it's verbally and externally, or whether it's just in your head using your internal voice. Just trust that we will hear you, and your guides will hear you and respond to you even if you don't perceive it. That's the big thing, because a lot of people on earth right now don't have the conscious awareness to perceive all of these things that are going on in the higher realms, even in their higher chakras. So if they're experiencing something with their third eye, a lot of people on earth right now don't realize that is any different from what they're experiencing inside of their own head. So if that's the case for you, then I would recommend getting into your body. And so the way that this channel has the most success with that is by ecstatic movement, whether it's dancing or shaking or like any kind of physical stemming, like the hands that you'll see a lot of people who are on the autism spectrum do. That's a form of getting in your body. It's a form of stimulating your physical body so that more of your consciousness can be drawn into your physical form. So I would recommend doing that to start. And once you're able to determine what is your own thoughts and what is external thoughts, or what thoughts you are creating and what thoughts are occurring to you, because there are a difference. You can create thoughts, but you can also have thoughts that occur to you. You can have thoughts that are coming from your consciousness, from your higher self. You can have thoughts that are coming from your body. You can have thoughts that are coming from your nervous system and your brain. You can have thoughts that are coming from the external energy around you, because your brain is just an organ to transmute this energy. So it's all about learning how to properly transmute this energy and how to properly discern what energies you are transmuting using the organ of your brain. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you said three things. One
Yes.
was transcendental meditation, just to recap. Second one was ecstatic movement to get into your body. And then the third one, I think we still need to touch on.
Yes. The third one is perhaps the one that you may experience the most visceral results off of, because it relies the least on your own abilities. And that is visiting us here in Telos. So the city that I live in, I being Adama, just to clarify again, the city that I live in is under Mount Shasta. And it is in the third dimension and also the fifth dimension. Sorry, I heard a beep. That was weird. But this city is accessible to all human beings on Earth in the astral realms. And here in Telos, we have many different kinds of healers, and perhaps our facilities are a little bit underused by our Telosians. And so we strongly encourage any human who wishes to receive healing on the physical, emotional, spiritual, psychic, psychological, I am presence level, truly any level of your form, both physical and non-physical, you may ask to come visit us here in Telos, and we may assign a group of healers to perform various healings on you. Whatever is in your highest and best good will be delivered to you in this time. And so usually these visits may occur while you're sleeping. And so if you want to come visit us here in Telos, you may ask now and just say, Adama, next time I go to sleep, I would like you to please take me to Telos. Or perhaps you could say, Adama, every time I go to sleep, I would like you to take me to Telos until my healing is complete, or as complete as it can get in this lifetime, because of course you will never be fully healed, but thus is the nature of this incarnation for you. But that will be a really big stepping stone for you in this healing process, because the healing that we are able to do on your astral body may affect all of your
Mhm.
bodies, and is truly wondrous. And so our part of our goal is to bring these healing tactics to the third dimension. But of course, you will still be limited in your own abilities due to the nature of the third dimension. So coming here to the fifth dimension will be truly a game changer for your healing.
I agree, 100%. Speaking from experience. I will also, again, plug Marlayna's YouTube channel, and we'll share about that in the comments of this. But Adama speaks a lot about your astral body, how the healing, like different healing, different bodies, that gives more information about things that he mentioned on the different channelings that they have done together. So I would really recommend watching those. Okay, I have a question here in the question section. What counsel can Adama offer to address inner child healing, especially for past lives and patterns that repeat in this incarnation?
So I will address the part of past lives first. So if you believe that you have past life trauma, the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to do a cord cutting meditation. And so Marlayna and Fabi may help you with this. They do indeed offer this service. And so you may work with them, but you may also do this on your own as well. And your guides may help you with this as well. And we in Telos may help you with this as well. So this will be the first step, and this will be the first energetic break that you have, so that way you no longer have this tie to this past life trauma. For if you have this past life trauma and you have that tie still intact and you're trying to heal this trauma and you still have that tie intact, then you're never going to be able to fully heal that trauma until that energetic cord to that past life is cut.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. So after that cord is cut, then of course you must go internally, and as I was saying earlier, hold space for yourself in experiencing these emotions and feeling these energies. And of course, after you feel them, then you must release them. For if you hold on to them, then you will of course continue to replay these patterns over and over and over again. But you must fully hold space for yourself to completely feel all of the emotions that come up from this, because if you don't, then of course part of that energy will hang out either in your body or in your astral field or your auric field, and then it'll come to haunt you later. So we don't want that to happen. So definitely hold space for yourself, but don't hold so much space for yourself, of course, that you end up holding on to that trauma. You have to hold space and release. And of course, your guides can help you with this. And if you would like help with this, you need only ask. And know that even if you do not consciously perceive it, they will be helping you. And I may help you with this as well. Now, as for healing inner child trauma in this lifetime, I would recommend becoming your own parent.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the IFS point of view that we were talking earlier, the interpersonal family systems, you may imagine a child, your inner child, as a part of you. And indeed, there may be multiple inner children that you have, multiple parts of yourself that are from your childhood that have been wounded or are trying to act as protectors. And so, of course, any kind of therapy may benefit with this, of course, to varying degrees depending on the person. So find your proper therapist, find your proper discipline, and that will be of aid to you. But again, if you cannot afford that, you may turn inwards and act as a parent to yourself. So say, for example, you did not have a father growing up and he was very absent from your life, then you may turn internally towards that, say, 5-year-old part of yourself, and you may say, young part of myself, I'm so sorry that he wasn't there for you, but let me give you a hug and know that the worst is over and I am here for you now. And so in this way, holding space and expressing this parental love to this wounded part of you may indeed heal yourself. And so this is also why many beings seek this kind of love and validation in their romantic partners. For if you do not heal the wounds from your parents, then you will play out these wounds in your romantic relationships. But of course, you need not look anywhere besides internally for this love and validation which you are seeking externally. Does this make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I want to speak to, like, from your perspective in Telos and seeing humanity right now. What are you seeing as the because you guys have, watched us for thousands of years and have seen the mental health industry or practice, or just how people perceive mental health, how the structure of, especially in the West, is perceived around mental health, and the lack of support people have and understanding around the need to get mental health support. What are you guys seeing as like the biggest misconception people have around mental health, and kind of even just stepping away from the individuals, both the individuals, so the people needing mental health support, but then also the people who are supposed to be kind of more of the experts, and how are they missing the mark?
The way in which you guys are missing the mark is that your healing journey goes on forever. And whether that is because of the way that your current medical system works, by making money off of beings who are being treated, so they keep perpetuating these illnesses to keep getting money, or whether it is the internal belief that while you're going through this healing journey, it feels so strenuous and so painful, and there's so many horrible things coming up that it feels like it's never going to end. But it will. Well, perhaps end is not the best term for this, for it will never truly end until the day that you die. But indeed, there will come a day where you start to notice the difference. You start to notice the benefit. And that's how you'll know that you're on the right path. Now, of course, there will be quite a bit of trust and faith involved in this. For indeed knowing that you're on the right path, and this seeing of results may take multiple years. So, for example, this channel began her healing journey in 2016, as she said earlier, and she has only just now started seeing the results that she has desired. So it has been quite some time, but of course, growth is very nonlinear. So you may have times where your growth increases and then you backslide, and then your growth increases and then you backslide, and then your growth increases and then you backslide. But that is the nature of growth in this lifetime, and those backslides happen for a reason. So it's just kind of this belief, this collective belief in the human collective right now, that healing takes forever, that there's no end in sight, and that you're always going to be healing. And perhaps you will, but I would prefer to call that growing. You will always be learning and growing. You won't always be healing from wounds, because at some point you're going to learn how to set proper boundaries to protect yourself from being wounded. But that is the biggest thing on the individual level. And then, of course, on the collective level, we have Big Pharma to thank for treating the symptoms and not the root cause. So that would be another contribution to this reason that a lot of your healing journeys seemingly take forever, is because you're treating these mental illnesses that are not truly illnesses of the mind. They're illnesses of the energy or of the spirit. Now, never illnesses of the soul, for your soul cannot be sick. But the spirit in your body can indeed be impacted by various external circumstances and various internal circumstances that can cause it to, shall we say, come out of alignment with the higher self. And that is what causes a lot of these mental illnesses, is this disalignment. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So one of the things you spoke about in one of your channelings is how, we've talked about inner child wounds, we talked about parental or family wounds, we've talked about, we don't really talk about generational trauma from like a DNA level, based on who you, like the generational line. So maybe we can talk about it in a second. But then the third one we talked about was past life traumas and wounds. One thing that I think we could also maybe speak to is just the wounds that happen because of being in this world, being in this, being exposed to all the isms, right? That people that we have to live in the 3D world. And I know that there is a part of it that is by design, based on your soul plan, to expose you to things, to learn and to grow. But I think there's sometimes people take on too much responsibility for their wounding, and there's kind of this like shame that goes with it of, I need to fix these things because I did something wrong. And I think sometimes we don't put enough emphasis on just being in the societies that we live in, especially here in America and the West, is contributing to our mental illnesses and lack of mental health. So maybe speak a little bit to that.
Yes, I would certainly love to. And those are all great points that you just made. And I would like to underline this point that the reason that you are having all of these difficulties in your Western society, as you call it, is because of the suppression of the divine feminine. And so this is something that stems back even from before the birth of Christ, as you would say, even before those times when Yeshua was teaching all of these lessons on earth that are now coming to light again. There was this underlying theme of the divine feminine being suppressed and being repressed and being pushed down. And so when this divine aspect of humanity is suppressed, it basically limits one's ability to not only hold space, but also to sort of to have balance, basically, to find balance in life. Because without the divine feminine, the divine masculine cannot be in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that this biggest wound that people have right now that corresponds to this theme is the wound of people pleasing.
Yeah.
That is such a big one right now, where people are not setting boundaries because they're afraid of the impact that it will have on other people. But in truth, the definition of boundaries is perhaps a little bit skewed. So I would like to speak on that now, because you can only set boundaries for yourself. You cannot set boundaries for other people. So, for example, if Marlayna didn't want Fabi to, I don't know, text her after 10 o'clock p.m., Marlayna could not say, Fabi, don't do that. I'm setting a boundary. Marlayna would have to say, hey, if you don't stop texting me after 10 p.m., then I am going to take XYZ action and do this to protect myself. So you can't set boundaries for other people. You have to set boundaries for yourself. And so a lot of people have this shame around setting boundaries because they think that they're asking other people to do something for them, and they're not. They're saying, if you do this, I will do this. And so you're giving them the choice. You're giving them informed consent. Like, hey, you can do that. You can make your choice. But if you do, this is what I'm going to do in response. So if you don't want me to do that, which you can't control my actions just like I can't control yours, then you shouldn't make that choice. Does this make sense?
That makes so much sense.
Yes, it's all about the empowerment. There's such a lack of empowerment of the divine feminine right now. And indeed, I would like to note that male bodies also have divine feminine energy. So this is not something that just impacts women. It's something that impacts men as well. But it all comes down to this divine feminine suppression, and well, not all of it, but almost all of it, I would say, comes down to this people pleasing instance of not wanting to take up space, not wanting to stand up for yourself, not wanting to. It's just all the suppression of the divine feminine.
Okay, so let's say a lot of people that I know are in my community that follow me are women. And so let's say you're a woman and you know that that is something that you've struggled with. You've struggled with people pleasing, you've struggled with creating boundaries, setting boundaries. What is some practical tips you have for that, for this person that's watching this now that feels that way?
So perhaps a really good way to think of it would be in like a machine coding instance. So this is going to be a technical explanation, but it's going to be a masculine explanation. So it's going to appeal to the logical masculine sides of your brain. So this is by design.
Okay.
Now, we are going to imagine all of these boundaries that you're going to set as an if-then statement in coding. So in coding, there is only binary. There's only the algorithm. So if you want to make a code that says, say, for example, if I type the number 5, then you will give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
There is nothing good or bad about it. It just is. And if you type the number 5, then there is no way that you are going to get anything except a thumbs up. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So you can think of your boundaries in this way. If you take X action, then I will take Y action. There's no in between. It's very black and white. they know what's going to happen. And if they choose otherwise and then get mad at you, then they are behaving like a child. They are behaving like a toddler. And so this might be difficult. This might trigger something in you if this person then comes back and is like, hey, why did you do that? And then you have to say, well, I told you I was going to. Why are you surprised?
Yeah.
In these instances, you either need to reaffirm your boundary and say, well, I set a boundary and you made your choice and I made mine, and I can't choose for you and you can't choose for me. But also, this person, if you've never done this before, might look at you and be like, well, why now? You've never done this before. Why are you just now choosing to put your foot down? And so in these instances, I would recommend that you simply, again, reaffirm your boundary. Say, well, I said this. I said I was going to do this, and then I did. I don't see what's so surprising about that. And if you are surprised, maybe you need to look at words. Of course, maybe don't say that. That was just a snarky side comment.
Adama, you haven't been a human for quite some time. I don't know how that's going to go down, but
It would not
continue.
go down well at all. We just needed a little bit of levity in the situation. So after you have reaffirmed your boundary and said, of course, this is my boundary, I'm sticking to it, then you may say that, of course, I am trying something new. What we have been doing in this relationship between us has not been working out previously, and I've been left with some pretty uncomfortable and negative emotions. So I'm trying something new for me, and if you don't like it, then tough shit. Just kidding, don't say that. That would not go over well at all. But just definitely reaffirm your boundary, and definitely make a firm boundary, stick to it. And even if it makes people upset, know that their getting upset is, or them getting upset is not a reflection on your character. It's a reflection on their character. It's a reflection on who they are and why they are reacting to the situation when they knew what was going to happen. So the whole thing about boundaries is informed consent. It's information. You're letting somebody know before they make this decision, like, this is what's going to happen, and if you don't make this decision and you get mad at me, that's a really immature thing to do, and perhaps this isn't the person that you should have in your life at this time. Because if you're setting these boundaries and this person isn't respecting them, then perhaps they have something going on internally that's no longer in alignment with what you have going on internally.
I agree with that. I'm going to put that in a softer way because I know, Adama, you're amazing. We love you, but you're not human, which is great. But also, I want to make sure that we kind of speak to the parts of people who are still there's fear there. So the reason, what I've seen with clients is myself is the reason why it's hard for us to set boundaries is because of when that part of you that is afraid, because that's the reason why we struggle with boundaries, is there's a fear piece, and the fear piece probably comes from an inner child wound. When that wound was created, we did not have the choice of having to be able to set boundaries, because the people that hurt us were our caregivers, were the people who we needed to survive in order to be in that relationship. So there wasn't an option for you to say, I'm going to do this if you do this, and if you don't, I'm going to walk away from this, because of that dynamic that's created. And that is why this inner child work is so important, because there's an inherent lack of empowerment and authority in a child. And so when you get those wounds, it is more it's kind of a bigger wound than if someone, your friend, for example, doesn't respect your boundaries. You can walk away from them. So just identifying and making sure that you provide yourself with the safety that you need, because your body is going to push against all the boundaries that you try and set if there isn't safety there. So doing it smaller and doing it with people that you feel like you can trust, because you need to build that muscle of telling your body it is safe to set a boundary. Because 9 times out of 10, it wasn't safe for you to set a boundary when that wound was created that is being kind of poked at right now. And so there are going to be situations where you cannot walk away from a relationship. For example, it's a relationship with a parent, or it's a relationship with a spouse, or it's a relationship with a business partner. It is not as easy to just kind of walk away from. There's a lot of nuance there. And so starting kind of building your muscle of setting a boundary smaller but because of the fact that your body will kind of reject or run away from, or be your fear response is going to come up if you try and go in it too hard, too fast, because there isn't the safety that's being created in a relationship that may not be able to kind of be walked away from if this boundary isn't adhered to, or I don't know what the word is.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And those are all great points. And perhaps a boundary doesn't have to be something so big as saying, if you do this, then I will walk away from the relationship. Perhaps going back to our initial example of texting after 10 p.m.,
Yeah.
it is, if you text me after 10 p.m., then I will block your number before I go to bed every night, or I will turn off my phone before I go to bed every night, or whatever it is. It could be a smaller action to set the boundary. It doesn't have to be, if you don't do this, then we're done.
Yeah.
All of the time. Sometimes it may, indeed, but not all the time.
Exactly. Okay, so I wanted us to talk a little bit about the impact of generational trauma and or generational, yeah, that's piece of that, because I think a lot of times people don't realize that they may be working with something that's not necessarily their past life or an inner child, but it's something that is kind of passed down to them through their DNA from the family of origin that their soul chose to incarnate in, which is also part of the soul plan. So maybe speak a little bit about that as well.
Indeed. So generational trauma can be of two different origins. It can be of your physical karma, so your physical line, but it could also be of your energetic line. So in this way, physical generational trauma could be, for example, in this channel's case, her mother had an eating disorder and her grandmother had an eating disorder. And so she and her sister both had eating disorders. Now, perhaps this is a physical karma because this is a behavior that she learned from the subliminal programming that her mother taught her in childhood. So in this way, this generational trauma is much more of a behavioral trauma, a behavioral lineage that was passed down throughout the generations. And so in this way, it may take a much more cognitive or a much more behavioral approach to clear this karma. So indeed, cognitive behavioral therapy would be a good option for some, as well as dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as CBT and DBT. But there are also many other types of talk therapies that may help with these various traumas as well. And of course, we may help you here in Telos, and your guides in the higher realms may help you as well. But there's also the generational trauma that comes up as you further engage in your healing journey and you perhaps start healing your energetic bodies. You may find that there are energetic DNA, there's energetic signatures of your family, of your blood family, that have been passed down in the energetic DNA of your physical form. And so in this way, these may be the, shall we say, unactivated genetic markers for various diseases. And one of them is indeed breast cancer. So this channel does indeed have the gene for breast cancer. That's news to me. Cool. So she does indeed have the gene for breast cancer. And so this gene is an epigenetic gene, as you would say in modern science. And so this means that this gene, depending on the circumstances in this being's life, depending on the circumstances inside of her body, this gene may or may not be activated. So that means that if she allows herself to vibrate at the frequency of her previous ancestors who have suffered with this physical malady, then she may also develop this physical malady as well. And so this initially stems from an energetic level, but it is perceived by your scientists on a very physical level. And so this is one of the ways in which epigenetics can affect your healing journey. And of course, there is an entire realm of scientific study devoted to epigenetics. And so if you're curious about this, please do dive deeper into it, because this is another thing that is coming to light in the collective consciousness of humanity now, and that is the manipulation of your gene codes to better suit the lives that you wish to live. But we will speak on that in a later channeling. Now, the generational trauma that you have in this lifetime, you may not be born with. So that means that just because you were born into this body with all of your previous ancestors, this does not mean that you are necessarily going to transmute all of these lessons that they still have yet to learn. But as you progress down your healing journey, your ancestors may come to you and may give you the opportunity in this lifetime, in this incarnation, to transmute these energies. And so in this way, you don't necessarily have to be the firstborn daughter or the seventh son of the seventh son to transmute these energies or whatever your folk tales say that it is. So it is like, it is a very non-discriminatory process, but in the same way, it is very discriminatory. For some of these generational traumas, you have to be vibrating at the exact low frequency of the trauma in order to process it. But for some of them, you have to be vibrating at a high enough frequency to not let the trauma of that generational trauma weigh you down and pull you back. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So in this way, again, your guides and your higher self will never give you more than you can handle, no matter how intense or horrible it may seem in the moment.
Yes, and that is also, it's basically you get to transmute these energies if you get to a point in your own healing journey where you can be of service to your generational line, and they present you with that opportunity, because it is truly an opportunity, not a curse, because that energy will stay in this line until someone is ready and willing to transmute it. And I truly feel like it is a marker of your progress and your evolution in your healing journey when and if your ancestors do come to you to ask you whether or not you would be willing to transmute the energy for your generation.
Very, very much so. I completely agree with everything you said.
Thanks, Adama. So, okay, I know we have about 15 minutes left. I'm not left. I want to make sure that I leave time for any questions from people watching. Please just add it in the comments or in the question mark. If there's nothing coming through, and I'll ask them, Adama, but is there any messages that you wanted to share on this topic, on currently what you're seeing for the collective, where we are right now, just kind of a energetic update? Is there anything you want to share as we kind of close out today's live?
This may perhaps be a bit redundant considering the messages that have been coming through for a lot of beings, but there is indeed a very big season of upgrades that is happening right now, and they are being offered to the earth by the sun through these solar flares that your scientists are perceiving. But these offerings to humanity are the offerings of awakening. They are the offerings of an expanded consciousness. But with this expanded consciousness, if you receive these offerings, if your soul chooses to allow these offerings to affect you, then that means that you're going to be purging. You're going to be having these parts of yourselves, these emotions that are causing these mental illnesses or these negative emotions in your life, they're going to start coming to the surface. So that means that maybe the past few months, maybe the coming months, may be a very tumultuous emotional period for you. So in this, I recommend that you hold a lot of space for yourself. There is a lot going on, not only on just the collective level, but also on almost every single person's individual level due to the nature of the energy in the atmosphere right now. So just hold space for yourself as much as you can. Don't be afraid to say no to different engagements, different parties, different outings, just because this is a time of rest. This is a time of purging. This is perhaps when you get sick and you throw up, that is your body's way of purging the bacteria from your body. And so in this way, just as you would rest when you were sick, you should rest now, for your body is purging these bacteria in your emotional and energetic body. They're not actually bacteria, but in the analogy here. But that is my main message now. But of course, you are all divinely supported and guided And so you need only ask the beings in the higher realms, myself included, as well as your spirit guides, for aid, and we will surely oblige.
Great. All right. I don't have anything else. I really appreciate you spending time with us today, Adama. Like I said in the beginning, we'll probably try and do this every week at similar time based on our schedules. So if anyone's watching who wants to send questions, feel free to DM me and Marlayna, and we will share this on our social medias on YouTube, etc. And yeah, thanks Adama for being here with us today.
Anytime. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo!
Oh, his favorite word.
Toodaloo is his favorite word. Oh my
Yep.
god. How are you?
Oh, good. I feel so like I just took a nap.
Uh, yeah, we haven't talked about like length, but I felt like I was like we're getting to an hour. I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. Thank you everyone
Yeah.
for joining.
Yes. Thank
Again,
everyone for
if you want
joining.
to ask questions, again, if there's any topics you would like us to talk to Adama about next, let us know.
Mhm.
We have a laundry list of topics. Even from this, I was like, ooh, we need to put that on the list. We don't have time, but so many things.
Yes.
Yeah, so follow us on socials. Go check out Marlayna's YouTube channel for all the channelings that she's done. And again, as Adama said, we are able to support you with cord cuttings, with inner child healing, past life healing. We are here for you. Thank you. We're here for you, so reach out because we really are serving Source as well as the collective right now through supporting all of us going through this ascension process. And as Adama said, this is crazy time right now, and so be kind and gentle with yourself.
Indeed.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for watching.